Afternoon, folks. Hope you're well. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. I'm gonna paint a cafe scene. I haven't painted a cafe scene in ages, so I'm gonna do that now. I've done a very quick sketch as to give me a rough guide, and I'm gonna literally fly through this painting. I'm going to keep it really loose. I'm going to use big brushes, and basically we'll see where we go with it. Using bigger brushes helps the spontaneity of a painting, and my first job is to lay out and draw out the composition, and this is when I can change any of the components. So I'm just quickly running through the sketch. So I did the sketch this morning, and this is the next stage. And then what I'll do is I'll block in, maybe I'll give it a ground colour of a light yellow, and then I will block in the tones, and then we'll paint. I'm going to paint this in acrylics, and sometimes I go over in oils after I've painted in acrylics, but we'll see how we go. I was going to put a table here, but I've changed my mind straight away. I'm going to just put the tree here, a few branches, the sky will be here, then we'll have some distant tones back here. Obviously, I've got the camera behind me, so I can't answer any of your questions if you are asking me any questions. I'm painting with just normal acrylics, and I'm just getting this very quick sketch done as a guide, and then I'm going to go very purple tones back here to really accentuate that fact of distance. The most important thing with painting city scenes and cafe scenes is distance, and to create that illusion of you can look right into the distance into a painting. And so then we'll have another few tables here. As you can see, I'm not being fussy at all about the details. Thanks for joining. Hope you're well. Happy New Year. Hope you had a good one. Back in the studio and raring to go. So we'll quickly. The beauty of acrylics, of course, is that the paint dries super quick. I'm even hoping to put a ground over the whole of this painting straight away. And for instance, if I'm using a brush this big, it will really stop me from putting lots and lots of detail in those early stages. And that's the key to keeping the painting nice and loose. And so we'll have another lamp post here. I'm just kind of building up the composition. The light is coming from behind this tree and going on the face of these buildings, okay? So when I come to paint the light and the shadow, I'm thinking about the direction of the light. And perspective, the vanishing point is down here somewhere. So these lines need to be heading towards the vanishing point. Obviously this is such a big painting to paint in an hour. I'm going to try my best to get a lot of it done. I'm pretty certain that I can't do the whole painting. Not to a finished standard, definitely to a place where you can see where I'm going with it. And we'll talk about how I'm going to refine it as well. So sit back, have a cup of tea, and just enjoy the process of painting this lovely warm cafe scene. Because we're missing a bit of warmth, aren't we? Let's face it. Oh my God, the weather here. My studio is in Devon, in England, and I'm not going to whinge at all, but crikey, as it's just been raining relentlessly, and it's tricky to keep upbeat. Let's face it. We, as you know, or as we know, there's a lot of people worse off than us. So I better shut up. There we go. So that's another cafe there. Just bear with me. I don't know why. I've got two phones. Just so that you know, I've got two phones, and one of them is TikTok and one of them is Instagram. So I'm doubling up with the social media, and you know, you might as well, if you've got one phone, you might as well do two. So it's happening, and both of them seem to be working okay. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing clearly enough. But thanks for joining. I'm just making sure the painting's in focus. So this is going to be a cafe front, and then we have some tables in front of the cafe, and then a couple of chairs. Let's just draw them in very roughly. My sketching colour is just a mixture of blue and red. I'm using Prussian blue and red to sketch this out. And like I've said before, this is acrylic paint. And we are doing a good job so far. As you can see, there'll be nice warm light coming from the cafe. We'll have I can't remember what it's called. What's that called? I don't know what it's called. I've just got a mental block going on. So I'm just putting in the windows. These French buildings, they all have balconies, which is lovely. Okay. Alright. Standing back, having a look at the composition, making sure I'm happy with the way that it looks. Table here. Okay. Stage 1 complete. My next job, after I've just put a few more chairs in on this cafe here. Prospectively, the tables and the chairs here will obviously be a lot larger than the ones that I'm going to put here. And again, if I put some here, then they'll be just very small. So you need to make sure that when you're drawing stuff out, prospectively, it's all correct and looks real. Okay.
It's awning.
Awning. Right. So, big brush time. What I'm going to do now is just give the whole painting a wash of colour. This is just to, as you can see, I'm losing a lot of the marks that I've already put down. I should let this dry first, but I haven't got time for that. I'm just covering the entire canvas with a warm tone. And this is just called an undertone. And it's because it's a lot easier to paint onto a coloured canvas than a white canvas, and it also generates warmth from below the surface. I use deep-sided canvases, so I like to paint the edges. Like so. Plenty of water, so that it dries quicker. And because the underpainting is still wet, it is running into each other like you can see here, but when that happens I use that as my advantage. It's kind of becomes part of the piece and the mark making. If you stress out about, oh, it's not dry and it's not perfect, well, it doesn't matter, basically. In the end, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. Use it to your advantage. So when something happens, it's happened for a reason. Very deep on a Thursday. Not that deep really, is it? But there we go. Keep going. I can still see the marks that I put down. Lots of warmth coming from inside the cafe. enjoying this? Almost there. So this gives me a really good ground for painting the next colours on, basically. And obviously if I apply paint to these colours now, it's going to mix with this underpaint. So the best scenario would be for this to be dry now, but again I will try and use that to my advantage, and I'm just going to dry, just rubbing the underpaint. And that will just allow me to paint on top easier than if I was letting it dry. I can still see the marks. And it's leaving some nice, interesting textured marks with the rag, okay? Great. So that's kind of like a really nice undertone now, and I'm excited about putting the colour on now. So first job, I could do the sky, but I'm going to block in the darker shadow colours. Okay. So again, I'm going to use quite a large brush. Got some magenta, some cerulean blue. Let's see if we can, bit of Prussian blue. Let's see if I can get a really nice, and I will block in I don't want this to go green, obviously it's mixing with the underpainting. Let's go a bit more red. I'm just going to put the shadow colours down right from the beginning. As I said, the light is coming from up here behind this tree down onto the street, so there's a nice bit of glow along here. And these buildings on the left-hand side are casting this shadow onto the street. Okay. And I'll be able to bring back the sketch mark. Oh, that's nice. I like that colour. That's cool. Let's go with that. That looks nice. And then we'll put in a little bit of shadow underneath. So there's a table and chairs here. And go darker. I normally go darker on the edges of the painting, which will accentuate the illusion of distance. So darker here and here, then your eye will be drawn further down the painting. Just going to block in front of the cafe there. I've totally lost chair, my table and chairs, I'll scrape that back in. So my table's about there. I'll do that later. I just want to make sure that I don't lose the position of the actual table, which is there. Bit of light across that top edge. There's the canopy. Okay, so let's continue to put the shadow colour. Loads of magenta in this tone. Like so. Really accentuating, over egging, I suppose is the right word, that tone of shadow colour. The purples, it's really going to sing, hopefully, just mixing cerulean blue and magenta to get that colour. And then more shadow here. Obviously I've got a sketch over there what I'm looking at. It's just helping me. So I'm going to put dark, really dark here. To create this darkness, I don't use black. I'm just mixing red, Prussian blue and magenta. Hopefully you're getting the gist of this painting. Darker on the edges, lighter in the distance. Putting the tones in, blocking them in. I think that's the term. So on that one, you'd have one being the lightest area, which is probably the sky and a few highlights. Then 2 and 3 in the distance, then 4 and 5 in the middle section, and then darker 7 and 8. So lightest is 0, 10 is being the darkest. You'd have the full spectrum of tone throughout the painting, and that really helps to make sense of what you're trying to achieve, basically. So I'm kind of using the same colours, but just adding a little bit more, little bit of white to the mix. So this front face here is mostly in light, so I need to leave that. You can see this tone is starting to becoming, well, it's correct, and it's looking right, I think. It's hard to tell actually until you actually put in the lightest tone whether you're correct with your values. I think values is a good word for it. But when this painting is going to come alive is when I put in the when I put in the lightest value, which I'm excited about doing, and it will make a huge difference to this piece. I guess we are, what time did I start? So 2:20 I started, so we've 26 minutes in on this painting. So we're going really well. I'm hoping to get most of this painting done to a reasonable place in an hour, and then we'll have some tables here. So if I just scribble them in with the end of the brush while the paint is wet, it just gives me a really good guide for a bit later on where they need to be. Paint is drying really well. It's kind of warm in the studio today, which makes change. We have some good waves coming in today, actually, which I have not been able to take advantage of, but this is my therapy as well. Okay, so I'm putting in the distant tone, just added a little bit of yellow for that, making it more neutral. Obviously the ground colour is yellow, so when I put in the blue and magenta tone, it is mixing with that yellow, and it's giving me that perfect distant tone, which is what I'm looking for. And it will just trick the eye to believe that it's further away. This tone here that I'm talking about. And you're constantly trying to work out the correct tone for distance. Just adding more white, a bit of yellow. Go slightly lighter, and you see the undertone, it's still visible, and that's what we need. Creates that warmth, that glow. Okay. That's looking really good. It's in a good place. If you want to check out my website, it's paulkenton.com. I'm also published with Castle Fine Art and Castle Contemporary in New York. So, busy boy. It's all good. It was an amazing year last year, and let's hope this year's just as good. Really enjoying my painting. Okay. Just blending that edge. Standing back, having a look. I put on all these darker tones to start with, and then I start to put in the light. Okay. So I'm just making sure I've got all the darker tones that I need before putting the light in. Obviously there's the table and the chairs actually. I can scratch the position of the chairs as well. And this is tabletop. Just take a rag and just remind myself where it is. So if you're going to put really light onto the painting, it's best to have that area clear from paint, like so, because it will, if it's not dry paint, it will just mix with that colour underground, the undertone, and it will just be harder. You have to let it dry and what have you. So I'm just bringing back a little bit of the areas that are going to be lightest. We have the lamp here, and then the street. So I'm just stepping back, having a look. This is acrylic that I'm painting in, just so you know again. And doing a nice, warm, inviting cafe scene. There's a canopy here. It's got some nice shadow on it. Let's put a lot of blue shadow on this. Make it really inviting. Like so. Again, I'm mixing up these darker tones just with Prussian blue, red and magenta. Okay. The tree will come down to about there. Go up. That looks good. So now I need to clean my brush. Rita. Alright, so I'm going to put the lighter tones in now. We'll start off with the sky. I'm just going to go, my brush is contaminated with, I haven't got any clear water, so I'm just waiting for that. And just going to add a little bit of yellow to the mix. You can see that, and white. And this is when everything just goes, it starts to pop, basically. It's not white, it's off-white, so you can see there's just a bit of yellow in there, and we'll start to put in the light. And the undertone is still wet, but it's mixing with that white, which is not a problem. I can go over it again. And it will start to make a lot more sense. And look really cool, hopefully. Let's bring this to action. Go. Still quite a lot of warmth in there. so. And it really stands out. Super cool. If I want to go lighter here, just to really, I'm trying to think, but the tone, to get the tone perfect, if I went lighter here, that would be my 0, and then it would really stand out. But I need to let that wash dry before I go any lighter, because it's too wet. It's difficult. Let's try a little bit here. It might be alright. I've gone quite thick with the paint there. So that's my lightest point. Just blending into that space so we don't have really obvious brush marks. Just. Like so. Nice. A little bit of interest there. I'm going to put the tree in a minute, but okay. That's looking good. And while this paint is on my brush, I'm going to dive straight into putting the light on the street. And I want it to mix with the purple that I've already got down. So it doesn't give such a hard edge back there where the transition between the shadow and the light. So I want it to be a gradual blend rather than a really sharp. So that's softer. If I wanted to make a really hard edge to the shadow, then I'd need to let that paint dry, but we'll see how we go. So the light is coming down this way. Let's add in a bit more warmth, so I've just added a bit of yellow. Like so. Okay, my brush marks are going across because the pavement is going across this way. But also we have the perspective lines going that way. And then if I drag my brush that direction too, it will also look pretty cool. And this is where I can see it starts to become very clear where I need to put the more light. That looks nice. And then if I transition just a little bit more warmth back here, because it's further away. So I'm adding more magenta just to give it a bit more distance. Like so. More cerulean blue. So I'm using a big brush because it's a lot easier to blend the paint than if you're using a small brush, and it will all dry super quick as well. So you've got to work ever so fast when you're painting with acrylics. You can get a solution which slows the drying process down, which I use sometimes. But that looks really nice. I love that. Okay. So what have we got? We've got the darker tones, and I'm starting to introduce the lighter tones. We need to put the tree in, and then so the tree will come up like so. It'll go quite dark down here. I'll add a bit more information a bit later on. I need to put the foliage here of the tree, a few, and then just looking at my tones. And the thing is with acrylic as well, the paint dries a lot lighter than when you first put the paint down. So this here was a lot lighter when I first applied it. So I need to go back over, but I'm going to start to use the marks that I've put already to create the windows. Okay, so again, nothing gets completely painted over. And just put the top there, just bring a little bit of red helps. Just putting in the windows, and that's the under colour from a previous layer of paint. Same here, I can just go a little bit lighter. So this face here, again that's a little bit lighter again because it's facing the sun. Here. Like so. That looks good. I can put in actually just a bit more information on these distant buildings actually. Just with a slightly lighter tone. Creates that illusion of a window. I'm not fussed about too much detail back there. Your eye will not see it. It will be drawn. So where's the focal point on this painting? So where you can choose where you want people to look at, and I'm going to put figures here with shadows. That's going to be a focal point, and also this canopy here, that's going to be really light, and that will be my focal point. So where you want the viewer to to look at, basically, to tell the story. Okay, so now I'm going to put in the foliage. The problem is when you put in green in a palette, it contaminates the whole palette, but let's not worry about that. I don't go for bright greens, I always go for more muted. It just helps that distance. Like so. So as that dries, I'll be going over that with another layer in a little while, which will, we can go a little bit darker, just adding some red. Again, top edges, if you make them darker, it will, the eye will be led towards the light. In theory. Okay, so I'm just going slightly lighter with the green. Just using the side of the brush just to work my way into the light. I'll be going over this green with lots of different layers as the paint progresses. Okay, so while I've got green on my brush, I will put in the areas of other green bits. So some plants above the canopy. This is your classic chocolate box Parisian cafe scene. And then we have, but the thing is, it all helps to make a really happy picture. And we've got putting in a distant, so I'm adding blue to the green. That will create more of a distant green, like so. Bit of green there and distance. So the more blue you add to the colour in the distance, the further away it looks. So we've been painting, in 10 minutes, it will be 1 hour, okay? So what I'll have to do is I'll stop Instagram and then restart it, because I think you can only record for an hour and then you have to redo it. So I'll restart it on Instagram. I've still got the TikTok going as well. I'll just leave that one running. Okay, so we'll have a bit more green in front of this cafe here, just blending it in with the surrounding colour. It's just a suggestion of your eye is telling your brain that that's green, you know, that's little bushes or whatever in front of the cafe. Okay, that all looks pretty good. Again, when a bit later on, I will refine the the perfect tone actually of these shadows, but they're okay, you know. I'm looking at them and they're absolutely fine at the moment. I'm going to put just a few suggestions of tables here. Just using the side of the brush. I'm painting most of this painting with this one brush. And then the top of the tables will be slightly lighter. Like so. Again, suggestion of something there. Okay, so just looking. What I'll do is I'll restart Instagram. I'll have a swig of my tea. Hope you're okay. And we'll carry on. I'll just restart Instagram here. So, see you in a sec.